Welcome back, Minecraft fans, to Scarworld. This time we're doing the rest of my base and saying goodbye to Scarworld Season 2. This right here is not my base. I didn't build any of this, but I admire it quite often. This was done by my new friend and neighbor, Ppaatt. Beautiful apple tree, might point out. And then, of course, a lot of really awesome and creative buildings. Some really inspired stonework and statues, and kind of a unique idea for foliage around here. I'm starting off in Ppaatt's base just to kind of shout out to the wonderful neighbor I had this season, and also because if you follow this path, you get to my build. Alright, just a little further ahead, and you can see the front gate. That's right, we went with kind of a modern build this time. I won't say it's, completely fancy modern style, but it is definitely, up to date with a cool security code to get in through the front gate, and a nice paved driveway with some beautiful trees. And as we turn the corner, you get my favorite view, one of my favorite views of my base. This is the mansion that I've been living in for the past almost year, and I love it. Look at the sun setting right behind there. What do you think? I'll get a little bit closer so you can really soak it all in. I want to play with the angles a little bit also because it is quite three-dimensional and deserves to be seen from a couple of different sides. Also, I might point out there's no torches anywhere, and that's because right before I started this tour, I ran around and just knocked down all the torches so you wouldn't see my torch spam. But yeah, let's go up the front gate, admire the attempt at stone lions. I'm using the armor stand mod pack. It was very difficult to make a lion out of what is supposed to be a stand for human armor. But yeah, this is the front walk, and whew, you start to see how the building towers above you. The idea here, and I'm going to have to sleep if it gets too dark because of course there are no torches here, but the idea is to do a build palette with 3 colors that I think go really well together. Prismarine and warped wood and warped trapdoors, which are beautiful and look kind of like wrought iron, I think. End stone, which has this kind of off yellow creamy texture, which doesn't necessarily go with very much, and bricks, which is another off color. It's sort of red, and it goes with the granite as well. And using the end stone and the bricks as a base, I made the walls, and of course the prismarine as a accent color. So I didn't want to use it too much, but this building would not have been even close to possible before 1.16, the walls update, as I like to think of it, because these are all made out of walls, brick walls, end stone brick walls, and which made it really interesting because you get this extra depth here between a full block and the wall. You also get this little bit of texture on the corners, and you can make your walls quite a bit thinner and still get that detail. And so then you get to add other detail like archways and trapdoors, and you don't have to rely on stairs and slabs for all your detail. But yeah, I came up with this window design. Well, sorry, not this one. Let's go over here to a proper window. I came up with this window here using brick and end stone and then this archway, and decided to throw it into my build in as many places as I could. So I think there's, let's see, 10 of these full-size windows and 2 of these shorter windows. And I just threw them around the outside, the footprint, making interesting towers along the way of different sizes to kind of, vary the shape, because the number one thing you can do when enhancing your build of any kind of structure is change the shape. Just take anything rectangular and blow it up. Do something else with it. And then do the roof last, right? That's the best advice I can give you. But let's go explore inside. I had big plans for the interior. There's a second floor, a third floor, and a bunch of balconies. But those plans never really got off the ground. So you can see the beautiful hallway with a blue roof made out of lapis and blue glazed terracotta. And what I went for walls is barrels, dried kelp blocks, composters, and honeycomb. And I didn't just throw these together. Believe me, I tried a lot of different combinations before I finally arrived at this. I wanted some kind of molding and some kind of accent color that really popped against the green wallpaper here. And the whole thing lent itself to an interior of green. So we have green banners and green glazed terracotta, along with some dark oak to kind of round the whole thing off. So whereas it's red, yellow, and blue on the outside, it's a very much green and brown on the inside, which adds some variation and doesn't necessarily clash. But I did get a few interiors done. So in here we have one of the guest rooms, one of the fireside rooms here, a lounge where you can just hang out and enjoy the fireplace, and maybe admire the statues or the artwork, or grab a book, or maybe even, let me get out of here, curl up with some cushions or get something to drink at the bar, and maybe just gaze out the window and look at the trees and the birds in the morning, or admire the peonies. Not bad if I do say so myself. We got a hat rack here made out of armor stands, and let's see, oh, and the lamp, yeah, the base of that is an armor stand. I've basically just been using the armor stands to kind of cheat. When Minecraft doesn't give you a block that you want, you can use the armor stand mod to fill it in, as long as you don't need the hitbox, right? And some kind of warrior up there, pretty cool. And of course I did the other lounge, mirrored it on this side. This building is quite symmetrical from the outside, and on the inside just a few things are different. Just a different bar, one couch instead of two, that kind of thing. Just to add a little bit of variation. Still one of the best rooms in the house, very cozy. I also did this sort of mud room, I guess, where you can sit down and put on your shoes or lace up your boots to go riding. And I will say that this whole floor is very well lit up without any torch spam. And then off of the hallways, I have some rooms that never got finished. So I have a smaller room here, which I thought might be a study or some kind of operations room. And then in here, I was thinking of a small ballroom and lounge, parlor, I suppose you'd call it. And then on the opposite side, I wanted to open this up and make a grand ballroom. Huh? Yeah. Not exactly sure what kind of furniture would be included, or what interior decorating would be needed to create the illusion of a ballroom. So, like I said, it never got off the ground, but I did complete the stairs and the stairways to each of the levels. So as you can see, the first floor has never been done, but it does have quite a nice balcony, which we'll see later from the outside, but you can walk around on it. I will say that. And you can take the stairs up to the third floor as well. And there's a lot of balconies up here on the third floor. Huh? What do you think? Pretty cool. The roof was a really fun aspect because I wanted to throw in as many windows as I could and vary the shape and size of them as much as I could. I also wanted to do cool things like these balconies, and basically wanted to create an interesting roof shape that left a lot to the imagination. It's also fun to just parkour around up here. We have the main balcony on the third level where you can look over the beautiful gardens, which I'll talk about in a second, and of course the super secret side balconies on each side where you can kind of gaze off the front and see who's coming to visit you. Yeah, by car. But enough of that. Let's get down to the basement, because these stairs go down almost as well as they go up. Oh, and I'd be remiss not to mention that there's a painting of a hand grabbing some French fries. All right, you continue around the staircase and you find the door to the basement. And down in the basement we have a few essential things, such as a portal here and a storage room. That's the main feature of the basement. This is where all of the supplies for the whole house are kept, as well as a map of the mansion and grounds, and a map of our island, which we visited in the last episode. hope you caught part 1. And this whole basement is lit up as well without the need for torches besides, decoration. Also in the basement is the kitchen where the servants cook. Of course, it's a mansion. You have cooks, right? To throw your luxurious parties. So we have a kitchen with a cold room and some fancy mixers and ovens and stoves, and I don't really know what goes into a kitchen. Cupboards, I guess, lights, but you can imagine that it's all there. And that's pretty much it for the house. Believe me, a lot more planning went into this than I can really show off in a few minutes. But when we come out here, we get to see the back view, which is really what this was all about for me, since I did the back of the mansion first, unlike some people. And that's what that looks like, my favorite view in my whole base, in the whole season. Take a screenshot of that. It's a ton of fun to build, and the reason I built this mansion was because my original idea was to build a garden. This is the first thing I made, and I wanted to build this huge, luxurious grounds and estate gardens, and it just didn't make sense to do that without having the estate and the manor that goes with it. So that's really why I built this house. And with that said, let's take a look at the fountain. This is my mermaid. She doesn't have a name, but she lights the way for tired travelers in the night. And yeah, this was one of my first experiments into the world of the armor stand mod. This is more than 40 armor stands. A bunch for the tail, a bunch for the body, and then a ton of armor stands for the hair. These are nether sprouts for the lovely, beautiful hair. And the arms are twisting vines. So it was a ton of fun, and I think she turned out great. And of course, fits into this whole, bronze statue that's, or copper statue that's patinaed. Let's go around the side of the house because I had the pleasure of adding a beautiful pond. This was just kind of empty land here, and I decided it'd be nice to have a pond to look over and maybe stock with fish. I did some wet sand here in the form of path blocks and mushroom blocks. That's what's underneath there. And threw in some kelp, and of course, some lily pads, which are trapdoors and coral fans. I think everyone knows that trick. If you don't, lily pads. Very nice. If you don't do too many. I just did 4 this time. And if you're swimming around in the pond, occasionally you might want to make a quick escape to the secret hideout room that we have underneath the pond. Ton of fun here, stocked with all the essential supplies you need in case you have to go off the grid for a few days. After that refreshing swim, you might want to come around to one of the more modern additions to this mansion, which is the fire pit and sort of, I don't know, camp song singing area, I suppose. Like I said, it's more modern. You don't really see those in the old houses like this. What I was going for here is largely inspired by the Biltmore mansion. So I don't know what's that, 1800s? Probably turn of the century, 1900s style mansion here. And so, of course, they've done things along the way to spruce it up, like adding that fire pit. And then a couple more modern installations around here. I did a few custom oak trees, like to point these out. These are fun, but they take forever, and they can be kind of tiring, so I didn't do too many of those. Over here we have the garden house, and this has actually wound up being my starter base. I started right next to this tree under this hill. That's where I spent my first night, and then was able to transform this house into kind of like a garden, garden supplies house, where the gardeners would, store the plants that they're working on, transplanting into the rest of the grounds. And below us are villagers, and you get there by opening this barrel and then falling through the floor and crawling a little ways. You get to my secret villager trading hall, which is not much, but powered by redstone, which makes it pretty cool. When you're done trading, you just walk right up out of the floor, and you're in front of the garden house again. Now, let me continue this way. We have some beautiful flower arrangements and something like a reflecting pool. You don't go swimming in there. That's why the basalt is down there. It's not a swimming pool, but it's a reflecting pool, and I think it's nice to sit here and reflect. And you have kind of an artsy, like an Art Deco installation here, which is the pool house. I turned it into my super smelter. So you have an input here where you can put in 5 stacks of whatever you want to smelt, and it will automatically come out and be stored in this hopper. So very minimalist design for a smelter, I think. And if you want to get to it to restock it with fuel, you just dig your way through here. And you can get down here, very compact, and fill it back up with fuel whenever you run out. Let me replace those blocks as if I was never here. But all in all, I love this idea using the brand new quartz bricks, which we got in 1.16, and glass right on top of it to make something, I don't know what that is. This is light gray stained glass, but it definitely has a different look than just plain quartz or plain glass, for sure. So it's fun to experiment with that. But let me head over this way. Nice grassy hill over here where you'd play, sit out in the sun and look at the clouds. And through this hedge, we come to a hedge maze. I always think these are fun whenever I'm visiting somebody's, garden show or indeed the Biltmore Mansion or some kind of gardens. I love when there's a hedge maze that I can explore with all kinds of fun little shrines and statuary to discover and find my way through. And it looks like we've escaped. That's nice. But back at the fountain really quickly, because there's a few things I don't want to miss. If we go past this big old custom tree and past the garden house and turn left instead, we go down this path to one of my newest additions, which is kind of a cool amphitheater, I think, where you could do Shakespeare in the Park, you could sit down and just listen to stories. I don't know, there's no end to what you can do. And like I was saying, once again, the armor stands were used when I wanted to cheat and do things that Minecraft wouldn't normally let you do. I mean, honestly, that's the only way to get an aesthetic lantern in this case. So that's what I did. But yeah, I placed down every one of these terracotta blocks in the orientation I wanted. It was not done randomly, no matter how it looks. Alright, and continuing past our little central square here, going north, we have kind of a spooky pool with some vines and some lily pads, which I think really adds, and a pathway, some stepping stones off to the left that lead to one of the very first things I built in the garden, which is this swing. And these are supposed to be like small willow trees. I think that works to some extent. Now, a little further on, we have this mossy cobble path, which leads up to a new building. And I don't know what I was thinking of this one. It's another kind of artsy building that would have been built, much later on in the history of the estate. But inside, it's much more simple than that. It is a smelter, which currently has kelp and shouldn't. It's a smelter that is an XP farm. And if you have a broken tool, like this one here, all you need to do is grab the green dye from inside while holding your tool, and it should repair it all the way up. Cool, I'm glad that worked. So a little bit of function to the build. And a little bit further down this mossy cobblestone path, we come to the last component that I have to show off in my grounds, and it's the beautiful and expensive, I hope, walled gardens. Let's go inside and flowers. hopefully that's the feeling you get. That's the feeling I get when I walk in there. And fun pathways to explore. We have here a sizable walled garden with coarse dirt garden beds, and every bed is quite different. I wanted them to really stand out. So we have a red, white, and blue bed here with kind of a bird bath in the middle. All of these, fences are on armor stands, which I think really adds to the look of the garden without having big old fences, everywhere, which would impede your ability to walk right through it, of course. Something like like a sundial here, I suppose. Or maybe this is one of those scopes that you look through, binoculars to, watch birds, I guess. Surrounded by roses. It's kind of nice. Again, there's a lot of pathways. So there's the main, path block paths, and then there's the grass block paths, which go kind of off to the sides. There's a stream running through and a little footbridge and some benches that you can sit on to enjoy the view with your morning coffee. And then, of course, there's the big bridge, which has the trick where you put fence gates next to walls to make them a little bit lower, and then you get this arch in your fence gates. Pretty useful trick. And invisible item frames for just a little bit of extra decoration, which I thought I needed in this case. And then finally we have the bird bath trick again, which is a carpet block on an armor stand to get that. I suppose that's supposed to be water, and I think it kind of works. And a fountain. And of course the whole thing is covered with vines to make it look like it's been here forever, which of course it has. It's a very old formal style of garden. And I even have a statue, which I don't know what this is supposed to be, but it's kind of a haunting statue. And I think that's kind of nice. And that's going to be a wrap on the entire base here. So that'll do it for the tour. Thanks for watching. I hope you saw something inspiring. One last thing I think I had better point out, and that is my statistics here. Just a quick flex. If we go right down here to, I believe it's under T for times died. Let's see. Okay, well, time since last death, 10.98 days, and time played, 10.98 days. So that does not mean that I died as soon as I logged in and haven't died since. It means that I have not died yet. I've never been killed by a bat, and I've never been killed by a chicken. And those are the only stats that matter, I think. So yeah, I played this season without dying. Woohoo! Let's send it out on one last flyover of everything that we've toured so far. Thanks for watching, and I hope you tune in next time in Scarworld.